Just interject for a moment. My deceased son, Bo, he was the Attorney General of the state of Delaware. And what he used to do is go down on the east side, what's called the Bucket, highest crime rate in the country. There's a place where I was the only white guy that worked as a lifeguard down in that area, on the east side. And you know you can always tell where the best basketball in the state is and the best basketball in the city is. It's where everybody shows up.
Oh, boy. And just as a refresher, here are a couple of others. You cannot go into a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking. Obama, when you hear this quote again, it's stunning. He became the guy's vice president. Obama is the first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. What the F? He said that. Poor kids are just as bright and talented as white kids. Oh my God. And now this. So, you got to keep it in context because he's got a long history of these things. Collective yawn by the media. They don't care.
I'm starting to think that Corn Pop was the good guy. I think when Biden was that lifeguard, he didn't tell that story right. Corn Pop, I think, was the good guy. Of course, he gets a pass. It doesn't matter because no one actually cares about racism. Racism has basically lost all of its meaning. All it is a cudgel to attack Republicans. When Joe Biden comes out and he says, these Republicans are all racist, most recently he said, these Republicans, they're fascists. I promise you, I would bet my life savings Joe Biden not only has never read The Doctrine of Fascism by Mussolini, he has never even heard of The Doctrine of Fascism. He has no idea what it means. All fascism means, and George Orwell made this point, today is something that I don't like. All racism means is bad. You're a bad person. And so it doesn't matter. They'll never hold Biden or any of the Democrats to this standard. Has nothing to do with race. Has nothing to do with 20th century Italian political movements. What they're saying is, you Republicans are bad, and we are going to boot you out of the public square.
So yes, President Unity did refer to half the country as semi-fascists. And just in case we didn't fully understand what he meant, his right-hand woman, Karine Jean-Pierre, takes to the White House podium, lectern, to explain as follows. Listen to how she put it.
The president thinks that there is an extremist threat to our democracy. The president has been clear as he can be on that particular piece when we talk about a democracy, when we talk about our freedoms. The way that he sees is the MAGA Republicans are the most energized part of the Republican Party. This is an extreme threat to our democracy, to our freedom, to our rights. They just don't respect the rule of law. You heard that from the president. They are pursuing an agenda that takes away people's rights. So, which is what the president said last week on Thursday. You all heard him. This is what the president said yesterday, and that's what he's going to continue to say.
She's reading. She prepared that. It came out exactly as she wanted it to. That MAGA Republicans are an extreme threat to our democracy, etc.
That's the key. The key is that this was not a gaffe that she might be prone to, that Joe Biden is certainly prone to. This was written out. This was agreed upon in the White House. She repeated it, and she's calling the Republicans terrorists who pose an existential threat. You'll notice that the left doesn't refer to terrorists as terrorists. They refer to the leader of ISIS as the austere religious scholar. They're really.
It was in the New York Times.
That's right. But the Republicans are the terrorists. And there's such an irony, too, because, if you call someone an extreme threat to our democracy, you're saying this is their very existence is the threat. It's existential. And so the only implied solution here would be to get rid of half the country. They're saying the only way that we can protect government of the people, by the people, and for the people is to get rid of half the people. And that's incoherent from the standpoint of democracy, but it does start to make sense when you realize, and the Harvard law professor Adrian Vermeule has made this point, when the left refers to democracy, they don't mean democracy. They mean liberalism. They mean leftism. They mean progressivism. That's the only way it makes sense that when the people elect Donald Trump, it's a threat to democracy. When the people elect Bolsonaro in Brazil, they elect Orban in Hungary. It could even be an overwhelming majority of people who elect these leaders. But if the leaders are right-wing, then somehow it's a threat to democracy, even if the demos, the people, is the one electing them. Because for the left, democracy means absolutely nothing. It's all just to protect liberalism.
Well, that's why he's giving this speech tonight about the soul of the nation. It's going to be us versus them. President Unity will once again be in an us versus them mode, or he's talking about, one presumes, the semi-fascists, the extreme threat to democracy, and, okay, the MAGA Republicans. I mean, who is that? Because, like, half the country voted for President Trump, who had a MAGA agenda. The MAGA agenda lives on, even and is supported by many people who weren't diehard Trump fans, but they liked sort of his general policy and general approach. So MAGA Republicans, it's like, that's everyone. That's everyone on the right half of the country.
Well, this is the rhetorical key, because he's trying to distinguish between the mainstream Republicans who totally oppose Trump and the MAGA Republicans. He's saying that's the fringe. But the Never Trump movement, such as it is, I think all it comprises at this point is Bill Kristol and the 5 friends he has over for tea so that they can complain about the Donald. You know, it just statistically doesn't exist. The MAGA Republicans are the Republican Party. It's the whole Republican Party. And so but that's always been the point, is he wants it to seem in his rhetoric like he's leaving it out for reasonable discussion, but he's really not. I mean, he's really saying half the country is evil, awful, poses an existential threat to the democracy, and their very existence is a major problem.
And then you get the media on cue, picking up that message, running with it, allowing their guests to run with it unchallenged, including Kurt Bardella, who used to be on the right. And then Trump sort of gave him the Trump derangement syndrome situation. And now he's on the left. I think he ran like the Republican congressional, I can't remember, but he got fired from that position. In any event, here he was on MSNBC, and listen to how he described Republicans.
We are watching right now a very radical and extreme Republican Party mirror what we have seen in other places like Nazi Germany, like other places like the Bolsheviks. We have seen this playbook before. We have seen a ruling party try to use things like propaganda, try to silence the free press, try to restrict what women can do. We have seen this playbook before, and it always ends disastrously for the majority of people that are subjected to that. That's what the warning signs are that we're seeing from the president right now. He is ringing the bell that we need to check in, pay attention, because this is a very dangerous line that the Republican Party is on. Their full embrace of autocratic ways and means is nothing but disastrous.
Silence the free press is a great one to include in there. The Republicans are trying to do that? Go ahead.
I think we need a free press before we can silence a free press. that doesn't exactly exist in America, where every institution, you know, the Washington Post and the New York Times, would make Pravda blush at the height of the Soviet Union. But even beyond that, I agree with one thing that he said, which is the ruling class. He's accusing the ruling class of all of these things. What's the ruling class? The Republicans have, at this moment, practically speaking, zero institutional power. Not anywhere. You can maybe make an argument that the Republicans have power on the Supreme Court, though it's a razor-thin majority. But even that, and the Supreme Court is at least officially not a partisan institution. But all the rest of it. We don't have the Congress, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the executive, we don't have the bureaucracy, we don't have the media, we don't have the corporations, we don't have the financial institutions, we don't have big tech. We don't have anything, okay? We don't have a single piece of institutional power here. We have a few carve-outs on talk radio and a few other places to maybe get our voices heard before we all get kicked off of TikTok or wherever else. And so, as always, the Democrat accusations here are really confessions. What it is a sort of projection, and you hear all of the hysterical rhetoric. You know, everyone I disagree with is Hitler. That's the kind of level of sophistication that we're getting from the left now. But it has a purpose. I mean, the reason that they're calling us terrorists and they're calling us Nazis and they're calling us fascists and racists and all the worst things you can possibly be called is to discredit a group of people that, while it might be half of the country, institutionally has virtually no power, and they want to ostracize us, or worse, even more than they already are.